The fog of war, unconfirmed airstrikes, and escalating tensions. Rumors of a major U.S. airstrike on a Houthi training facility in Yemen on April 13, 2025 are circulating but remain unconfirmed. These reports allege a significant loss of life. The United States Central Command, or CENTCOM, has not released any official statements regarding the alleged strikes. However, Avia.pro, a Russian news agency, reported that the U.S. conducted airstrikes against multiple Houthi targets on April 13, 2025. The lack of clarity surrounding these events underscores the often murky nature of modern warfare, particularly in active conflict zones where information is tightly controlled. The alleged airstrikes come amid a backdrop of escalating tensions in the region, fueled by Houthi attacks on commercial shipping and U.S. interests. The Houthis have ramped up attacks on maritime traffic in the Red Sea and Gulf of Aden, disrupting global trade and raising concerns about broader regional stability. The recent attacks have targeted vessels linked to various countries, no longer solely focusing on those with ties to Israel. This escalation has drawn sharp condemnation from the international community and prompted a renewed military response from the U.S. and its allies. The lack of confirmed information regarding the alleged April 13 airstrikes makes it difficult to assess their impact or implications fully. However, the incident underscores the volatile situation in Yemen and the potential for further escalation. The U.S. government, along with its international partners, faces the complex challenge of balancing its strategic interests in the region with the need to avoid further inflaming the conflict and exacerbating the humanitarian crisis. The international community must demand transparency from all parties involved to ascertain the facts surrounding the alleged airstrikes and hold those responsible for any violations of international law accountable. Furthermore, a renewed diplomatic effort is urgently needed to revive the stalled peace process and find a lasting solution to the conflict in Yemen. The alternative is a perpetuation of the current cycle of violence, with devastating consequences for the Yemeni people and the broader region. A history of intervention, U.S. engagement in the Yemeni conflict. The United States has been deeply involved in Yemen for decades, albeit often in the shadows. The U.S. has provided military aid and logistical support to the Yemeni government in its fight against al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula, or AQAP, and more recently, against the Houthi rebels. This support has included drone strikes, intelligence sharing, and training for Yemeni security forces. The U.S. involvement in Yemen escalated in 2015 after the Houthis, a Shia Muslim rebel group, seized control of the capital, Sana'a, and forced the internationally recognized government to flee. The U.S. supported the Saudi-led military intervention in Yemen, which began in March 2015, with logistical support, intelligence sharing, and the sale of billions of dollars worth of weapons. However, the U.S. role in the conflict has drawn criticism from human rights groups, who accuse the U.S. of complicity in war crimes committed by the Saudi-led coalition. The U.S. has also been criticized for its drone strike program in Yemen, which has reportedly killed hundreds of civilians. The Trump administration took a more hawkish stance on Yemen, increasing military support for the Saudi-led coalition and authorizing additional airstrikes against Houthi targets. The Biden administration, in contrast, has pledged to end U.S. support for offensive military operations in Yemen and to prioritize diplomacy to end the conflict. However, the U.S. continues to provide some military support to the Yemeni government and its allies, and the Biden administration has authorized airstrikes against AQAP targets in Yemen. The U.S. involvement in Yemen is a complex and controversial issue with no easy answers. The U.S. has legitimate security interests in Yemen, including countering the threat of terrorism and preventing Iran from gaining a foothold in the Arabian Peninsula. However, the U.S. must also consider the humanitarian consequences of its actions and the risk of further destabilizing an already volatile region.